I came into vocal training because I injured my voice at 14. I was a good student to bad teachers, and I had a vocal fold hemorrhage at 19. Again, I won't name the teachers, but I was a very good student to very bad teachers. I was following their advice, and I also ignored the fact that their voices weren't healthy. Like I tell people now when they ask me about looking for a voice teacher, they don't have to be your favorite singer, but if they can't make healthy, free sound, there's a problem. And you don't just write that off and like, oh, well, they're a coach, they're not Beyonce. Like, yeah, but they should still be able to make some healthy sound, even if it's maybe a classical sound or even if it's a style that you don't like. It should still be clear and free and not like, you know. But I ignored these
Yeah.
things, and because the teacher happened to be a famous person, and I ended up injuring my voice. But part of what brought me back to life vocally and what helped me to heal other people's voices was understanding breath work and how I found that just basically excessive subglottal pressure was the root of almost all these problems. And just learning how to anchor the breath more deeply in the body and to kind of hold back the breath pressure more with the body opened me up dramatically and helped so much professionally. Because even if I was nervous, even if I was sick like I am now, I never was without my voice, not truly. I might have been, I'd say I might feel like I'm at 60% today, but I can still sing if I have to. I don't feel like, oh, I can't, sorry, Peter, I can't, I don't have those days
Yeah.
at all. And I think it's because of knowing how to open up and hold on with my body. Yeah, which is kind of a classical thing, but I think it can be effective if it's taught properly. But I'm gonna shut up because I could talk all day.
That's awesome. But like, okay, that was two exercises.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, yeah. The other ones will be
But
shorter. I promise. I promise.
no problem at all. But what was like? I think that's a really interesting thing. What was that thing that made you damage your voice? That some teachers were teaching you, because I mean, in Sweden we have a lot of the same stuff. Like we have a lot of
Yeah.
people coaching how to just press up chest voice, for example, higher and higher, pushing, and people damaging their voices. And some of the biggest teachers in Sweden do that. So, and probably many people on YouTube do that. So, what should someone watching look out for? What should they avoid? How should they know what to follow and not to follow? How can they train to get a healthy voice, not to damage themselves?
Perfect question. Your description is kind of scary because that's exactly what happened to me the first time at 14. My dad was a minister, and so there was a church musician who was very talented. Like he could play the piano so well, and he could sing in a raspy way, but it was soulful. And I respected his ability. I didn't know anything about vocal. I didn't know that the voice could even be injured. Really, I was 14 years old, But he really encouraged me to push my chest voice as high as it could go, and so I was singing like high G's and A's and like tenor high C kind of notes with full chest voice, with a voice that really it was painful. But I started to go hoarse and lose my voice. And he was like, oh, no, it'll heal back stronger. It's like having calloused hands. If you work your hands a lot, eventually they build calluses. And he was right. The vocal cords do build calluses. They're called nodules, And I started to develop nodules. And I think that in that case, what I would warn someone about, I was the kind of person where I wanted to be a good student so badly. And I was raised to always respect authority all the time and always respect the teacher, that I would never think to question an adult or to question someone with a degree. And so, they were my teacher. I couldn't question them. And so I had to learn that I had to listen to my body. And if my body is saying something's wrong, then something is wrong, no matter how, but they're so good. Something's wrong if you feel pain. And I was literally told to ignore my body. In the second instance, I had a teacher who was kind of famous. As you know, there are some teachers who achieve a degree of fame, and then later on we find out everybody's voices were destroyed or whatever, And again, I'm not going to name names, but there are famous singers who will come out and say, hey, that guy everybody likes, he destroyed my voice, and I almost lost my voice. And I had a teacher who was famous, and he taught me that everything was passive, that just let go. There should be no tension anywhere in the body ever. And so you just take in the breath. omnidirectional breath, which was kind of good. You know, he helped me open up my breathing. But when I sang, around this time, I had a record deal, and I was working on some recordings that involved me to sing really hard, like yeah, like that kind of singing, and without without. This is the thing: when a teacher says just let go, don't have any pressure, that is not how singing works. That doesn't exist. We sing on compressed breath. There will be tension somewhere, and if you don't have a skillful idea of where that tension should be, your body will default to this. And I was trying to let go, but because I was singing so hard in these kind of screamy ways for this particular song, I ended up having a vocal fold hemorrhage. I pressed and pressed and pressed and pressed, and again, it was a situation where something felt wrong. It was a little better because at least he had me breathing well, but something felt wrong. And he was like, no, you're fine. You sound good. And this is the second thing I would say, sounding good, because I was getting a lot of praise for my voice with the second teacher. People were saying, oh, you sound good. And I was pretty uniformly, people were saying, you sound good right now. Sounding good does not necessarily mean that you're singing healthily. And that's the other thing I had to learn. Like, it doesn't matter if everybody in the world says, oh, Peter, you're the best. If something feels wrong, then something is wrong. So I guess it brings us back to the first lesson of just, I feel like your body, one thing I've learned about vocal injury, I'm now a coach with like almost 20 years of experience with helping people recover from injury. And you could look on YouTube and see people like David Corey saying, hey, he saved my voice or whatever. I've learned that vocal injury never comes out of nowhere. There are always warning signs. It's just that we tend to ignore them. And singers in the culture kind of say, oh, you're going to go hoarse sometimes. It's whatever. You're going to lose your voice. Or it's okay to feel raspy or to feel a little tight or sore. And they just kind of dismiss it. And I was around a lot of singers who were like, oh, that's not a big deal. And I was really hurting my instrument, especially being around a lot of gospel singers early on. They just really, it's almost an aesthetic value to have a little bit of rasp or a lot of rasp in the voice. Even people with clear voices try to fake it, like they want to sound like they've been smoking for years. It's, so it's kind of, at least in New Orleans where I was, it was a popular thing. And so, I would say to anybody listening to listen to your body. If it feels wrong, then it is wrong.